You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy. You make me happy. But my hope will never die.
Brands are getting weird on social media. This isn't your parents' favourite cleaning brand. Scrub Daddy isn't afraid to swear and make not so subtle innuendos. Your go-to language app now comes with a side of BDSM and kidnapping references, as well as elaborate and rough around the edges skits. And if you happen to live in Portugal, well, your country's division of KFC has some bold ideas about marketing fried chicken. And this isn't your dad's favourite brand of beans? Well, actually, it might still be your dad's favourite brand of beans. My point is, there's been a marked shift in the tone used by brands on social media in the past decade or so. It's not uncommon to see brands using a tone in both their posts and direct interactions with users that would have been shocking less than 10 years ago. They're not so stuffy and formal anymore. They might do a sassy little reply to your comment or regularly post memes. They'll even post stuff that has people asking if the intern's running the account, pushing the limits of what you might assume a brand account would post, and have you wondering how it got signed off. In fact, this approach to social media for brands has become so common that it doesn't pack nearly the same punch that it used to. Even the most mundane corporate brands have hopped on this trend and adopted a casual tone in their social media, especially TikTok. What was once refreshing and entertaining has very quickly become stale and cringe-inducing, and a way for mega corporations, often with extremely questionable track records, to attempt to give themselves a shiny veneer. Let's get into it. Duolingo is probably a good place to start with this, because they've become the go-to example when it comes to this style of social media branding. If you're unfamiliar, their posts feature the Duolingo mascot, Duo, getting up to various antics and skits, as well as timely memes involving him. Their skits are elaborate, especially considering they post a few each week and are often genuinely funny, or at least funnier than most brands. These are sometimes very high budget too, with new costumes created for them, such as the Eras Tour and Barbie, and tie-ins to seasonal events like April Fools, with this year's featuring a full Duolingo on Ice production. It's commonplace for brands to post memes to social media now, especially if they're targeted at a younger audience, but Duolingo is unique in just how many they post and just how timely they are. In fact, I really struggled to find a sincere post on their accounts, with the closest one being 21 weeks ago about their 2023 language report. They're also unique in the style of memes they post, including ones that are very much in the vein of Gen Z and Gen Alpha, venturing into brain rot territory, a loosely defined term that often includes content that's deranged, low effort, and/or inane. Their replies to comments are very casual too, even edgy, such as calling the official United Kingdom TikTok account a colonizer, which, is valid. Scrub Daddy arguably takes this style further than Duolingo though, seemingly having very few limits on what they'll post. Their videos feature plenty of swearing, often delivered by a comedically aggressive narrator.
What's up, motherfuckers? You ready to get creamed? Well, I sure am.
And they frequently badmouth competitors. Perhaps the edgiest thing about their social media presence though, is just how risqué many of their posts are. They're often full of not so subtle innuendos, including suggestive posts about their new cleaning cream, and this. Thinking about it though, this kind of humour makes sense for a newer cleaning brand. Many Gen Zs are adults now with the cleaning responsibilities that come with that. This has also been boosted by Clean Talk, which is dedicated to relaxing and motivating cleaning videos, and often features Scrub Daddy products. And then there's KFC Portugal, which might just be the most unhinged of any brand account, but let me know in the comments if you think there's a wilder one. Ultimately, this social media style can be boiled down to self-awareness, self-deprecation, irreverence, a casual conversational tone, and an emphasis on memes. While rarely as extreme as Duolingo or Scrub Daddy, sometimes it's as inoffensive as Bush's Beans dad jokes. This informal social media style for brands has become pervasive, and that's largely down to the success they've enjoyed. The success of a brand's social media presence can be clearly quantified through metrics such as views and likes, and sometimes through purchases on their website. These are all key performance indicators that marketing and PR departments are held to. Again, Duolingo's success can be used as a case study here. It had already established itself on TikTok before most other brands, and by 2023 they had really refined their strategy and voice. While it's difficult to directly link increases in sales to marketing, Scrub Daddy experienced a 59% year-on-year jump in subscribers in Q2 of that year, and a full page of that shareholder report was dedicated to their social strategy. In their own words, we spend relatively little on paid user acquisition, and the vast majority of our users have been acquired organically, but that doesn't mean that our marketing isn't effective. We have tested our way to a marketing strategy that inserts our brand into pop culture events and social media moments in order to expose it to new audiences and drive word-of-mouth growth. We call this social-first marketing. The success of this casual tone can also be measured in follower count, as is the case with Ryanair, who are also quick to take part in trends and memes, as well as replying to comments in a very conversational way, and displaying a hyper self-awareness of their negative reputation. For this, they are rewarded with far more followers than their competitors, having 2.2 million compared to EasyJet's 264,000 and Spirit's 85,900, to take two comparable examples. Of course, given the difference in buying a plane ticket and an app subscription, they're unlikely to have seen the same material boost that Duolingo has. But Ryanair's success is a sign that this approach isn't as limited as it might seem, and that other brands have taken learnings from it. So it works. But why? The intended audience for a lot of these posts is generally younger, featuring TikTok-specific or strange, chaotic, brain rot memes. To put it mildly, many of these videos would confuse older audiences, who wouldn't get the references or layers of references, or just don't share the same humour. While younger audiences in particular have grown accustomed to this, to older or unfamiliar audiences, this kind of content can represent a shocking contrast to traditional PR, where brands present themselves as friendly but professional. This is the appeal for younger audiences, the sense that brands are posting something that they shouldn't be, and being funny while doing so. The unprofessionalism or shocking nature of these posts has a lower risk of alienating these older audiences anyway, as they're less likely to be on TikTok, although the proportion of older users has increased. The reality is though, this has always been strategic. No sizable business would have a truly hands-off approach to social media, and give junior marketing staff unsupervised free rein. In fact, it's likely that the people approving these posts would otherwise be alienated by them, were they to not have a professional understanding of them. It's crucial that audiences feel there's real people behind the accounts though, preferably one similar to themselves, and much of the time that's Gen Z's. Meta-references, such as skits featuring the marketing department behind the account, help achieve this and humanize these brand accounts. In doing so, these unhinged, hyper-casual posts can achieve the holy grail of corporate PR, perceived authenticity. But to understand how the strategy has begun to wear thin, we need to look at how it started. And that's arguably a woman called Amber Gordon in 2013. The then 23-year-old had been put in charge of overseeing Denny's existing social media accounts, such as Facebook and YouTube, and decided to focus on expanding their presence on Tumblr, which she launched on April 9, 2013. Despite being much more popular at the time than it is now, the social media network was still relatively niche, and was mainly popular among teenagers. Amber's meme literacy, delivered through an unexpected medium, quickly earned Denny's Tumblr a massive amount of engagement and coverage in sites like the Daily Dot. Several years later, another fast food chain, Wendy's, would experience similar social media success, starting with an unexpected sassy clapback in 2017 in response to a man who challenged their claim that they don't use frozen beef. This single tweet was apparently so quote-unquote epic that it received coverage on sites like Cosmopolitan and CBS News. Wendy's seized on the positive reception to this tweet and made roasting users a key part of its Twitter strategy, including roasting competitors such as McDonald's, and even going as far as to release an EP. According to Wendy's marketing team, this approach was achieved by removing layers of reviews normally in place for their social media posts, giving employees free rein to make mistakes. This was arguably a risky approach, but it worked well for them, and had websites writing glowing articles about their 32 hilarious Twitter roasts. It was only 7 years ago, but this coverage has honestly aged like milk. There's something nauseating about seeing fawning coverage over what's ultimately just marketing. Wendy's have reined things in now and don't post nearly as much, with most of their replies on Twitter being to customer complaints. Their bold, for the time, approach opened the floodgates though, and soon other brands were experimenting with a more casual tone, especially ones with marketing departments looking to move the needle. But with this more casual approach to brands' social media presence comes risks. Brands must strike a delicate balance between what's appropriate and inappropriate, and slipping can have severe PR consequences, especially when the joke isn't funny. Prime example would be Pabst Blue Ribbon's post about eating ass, for which they later apologized and fired the employee who posted it. Or Duolingo's joke about Amber Heard during her domestic violence trial with Johnny Depp. Duolingo also apologized for this. High-profile incidents like this are rarer than we might expect, but there are signs that this casual tone is getting out of hand, such as this comment from Adidas I came across, on a video about the poor quality of their shoes. This comment was later deleted. Accounts are falling over themselves to be playful, and kind of being dicks in the process. What marketing departments perceive as a way to humanize their brand and build authenticity can easily come across as rude and obnoxious. For a sassy joke to work in this context, it has to be as funny as it is cutting, and the vast majority of social media managers simply aren't funny enough. Sorry to any that are watching this video. This style of communication with the public only works as long as the illusion that brands are people holds up. The work of the employees running a brand account is to develop its personality in the mind of its audience, and have them develop something of a parasocial relationship with the account. The problem is, the vast majority of brands struggle to develop a clear personality, and when every other brand is emulating this casual style for their socials, audiences begin to recognize it as a deliberate strategy, and the veneer quickly slips. While it might often be Gen Zs that brands are targeting with this casual style, they're now perhaps the most cynical about it. In the current context, this is unsurprising, as only 40% of Americans between 18 and 29 report having at least a somewhat positive perception of capitalism. This is manifested most famously in the silence brand meme, a ruthless dismissal of corporate attempts to insert themselves into organic online discussions. As far as I can tell, the meme dates back to 2019 as a variation of the silence liberal meme, but has persisted in its use as brands have adopted this overly familiar style of communication on social media. This is a stark contrast to how Wendy's clapbacks were lapped up by the press back in 2017. Coverage has aged like milk, even if you're not a Gen Z. Even the unhinged style of brands like Duolingo and Scrub Daddy is now seen as overplayed, and doesn't receive the same attention it used to. While they would have been universally shocking 10 years ago, to the extent that most would think their accounts had been hacked, it's now reaching its limits. Like kids trying to impress their friends on the playground, they have to continually up the ante to keep each other's attention, to stay interesting. Maybe the biggest sign that the days of the casual, meme-centric approach are numbered is its adoption by the stiffest, most formal businesses. Professional services networks. If you're unfamiliar, they offer a range of white-collar services such as law, accountancy, IT, and the famously questionable management consultancy. These companies are often massive, raking in tens of billions of dollars in revenue, with the big four accountancies, KPMG, Deloitte, EY, and PwC, pulling in over $200 billion in combined revenue in 2023. And they definitely don't keep their hands clean doing so. Professional services networks have possibly the biggest controversies sections on Wikipedia, and much of the time this comes down to a simple failure to actually do their job. Often they'll act as just a rubber stamp rather than actually doing the auditing they're meant to, such as PwC's failure to properly audit Chinese property giant Evergrande, which later collapsed after losing $66.3 billion in 2021 and $14.7 billion in 2022, or KPMG and Deloitte costing HP $8.8 billion in losses through serious accounting improprieties in its acquisition of software company Autonomy. In fact, the crimes of these professional services networks are so extensive that we don't have nearly enough time to cover them all. So here are some highlights. Involvement in corruption during Delhi's water privatization process, messing up the Oscars Best Picture announcement, facilitating corruption in Angola, helping Russian oligarchs evade sanctions, turning a blind eye to Siemens' bribery payments, its employees committing securities fraud, failing to uncover illegal sales practices at Wells Fargo, turning a blind eye to corruption at FIFA, gender discrimination, involvement in Malaysia's 1MDB scandal, hundreds of employees cheating on tax exams, extensive involvement in the collapse of Carillion, taking $44 million from the CDC for a vaccine rollout website that didn't work, and suffering a data leak and severely lying about the scale of people's details affected. And most of that was in the past 10 years. Every year, they're fined tens, if not hundreds, of millions of dollars. But this is simply treated as a cost of doing business, and they carry on like normal. So unsurprisingly, they don't have a great reputation. Combined with the fact that the work is often grueling and demanding, it makes sense that they turn to TikTok to recruit, where they've adopted a correspondingly casual style for the platform. Their TikToks feature skits and memes from staff, generally the younger ones, although the older employees sometimes get involved too. Much of this is just office humor, and day-in-the-life videos, as well as hopping on trends like Stanley Cups. These TikToks have been roasted thoroughly by creators on the platform, especially questioning the value these businesses actually bring. Given their repeated, massive auditing failures, this is probably accurate, but if you need to pay a bribe, at least they'll turn a blind eye to that. Don't feel bad for the junior employees in these TikToks though, they probably get paid really fucking well. Businesses needing to shape our perception of them, whether that be to keep us buying their products or just to convince enough people to work for them, isn't anything new. The difference now though is that social media offers a means for brands to interact directly with the public, and that means these brands need a voice. In the early days of brands on social media, this voice was normally polite, friendly, and fairly robotic, a way to minimize reputational risk. Pioneers of the casual conversational tone, namely Wendy's on Twitter and Denny's on Tumblr, very quickly shook this up though. The result was a cavalcade of brands seeking to mimic Wendy's success, and have fawning articles written about them too. A small number of adventurous brands like Duolingo and Scrub Daddy were willing to take this much further as they established themselves on TikTok, producing content that pushed the boundaries of acceptability and won them success via likes, comments, and probably sales. In recent years though, this casual, conversational, overly familiar tone has begun to wear thin as it's become widely adopted. And this has quickly lost the appeal it once had. At best, it's cringe-inducing. At worst, it can come across as insensitive or tone-deaf. Executing this tone with the same kind of success as its pioneers requires an incredible amount of strategy, and yet users, especially young ones, are quick to see through it. A brand hopping on a trend or making a meme was once considered a refreshing novelty, but now it's seen by many as a shallow attempt to leverage organic trends for business objectives. And so, we've arrived at the logical endpoint of this. An array of C-suite advertising executives awkwardly taking part in a trend just days after Congress passed a bill forcing a sale or ban of TikTok.
Audience attention is TikTok's superpower. Hi.
Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts. How do you feel about this era of brands being unhinged on social media? Is it embarrassing or does it help you connect with them? Drop a like and hit the subscribe button below if you want to see more. I release a new video every couple of weeks. Until next time, see ya!